So I'm going to call us to order at 6:51. I think the sheet is going around. So with that, the voucher did go out. So if you haven't signed the voucher, please do that. Public comment. I know we have Renee Labor from the.
Should I just stand here?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can come up wherever you want to go.
Oh,
there.
should I go up in front
Yeah.
so that everybody has to listen to me? Hi, everyone. Wow, there's a lot of people here. I'm Renee Labor, and I'm one of the co-presidents of the Mount Desert Island Educators Association. And I just wanted to come tonight to read a statement. I was actually going to try to just wing it, but if you guys know, people that know me will know that if I write it down, I'll actually say less than if I just start talking, so that's a good thing. Okay, so here we go. I just wanted to come by tonight and thank the AOS board, and especially the board negotiators, and Jessica and Mike for their efforts in negotiating our new contract. I know firsthand how much time and energy, emotional energy, mental energy, that contract negotiations require on top of coming to these meetings, and I just want to express my gratitude for all of your hard work. I also really want to thank you for being willing to participate in interest-based bargaining. I think after our last experience, it was a giant leap of faith. And I hope that you all feel that it was worth taking that leap of faith. I know that I do. In speaking with negotiators throughout the process, it was very clear that it was a positive experience for them. And they really appreciated the opportunity to come together with all of you that negotiated and to have so many rich conversations around education on this island and what it's like to teach in the school and what our kids need. I heard that all the time from them. Last but not least, kind of, I want to express my sincere appreciation for negotiating such a strong contract. The salary increases are impactful and they're meaningful. The changes in language around planning time will improve teachers' abilities to deliver quality instruction to our students. The improvements to the sick leave pool language, maternity leave, and more send the message that this district really, and community, really care about our staff and our families, and that's huge, that's really important. I have no doubt that this contract will ensure that we are able to keep the great teachers we currently have, and that we'll be able to attract great teachers in the future to this district. I know in speaking with many teachers during this week, that they feel valued, respected, heard, and seen. And it's so much easier to do this difficult but super rewarding job when those needs are being met. We really are, the association, we really look forward to continued collaboration and conversations with all of you in the future. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Thanks, Renee.
Approval of minutes from 11 December and annual meeting and 19 December special meeting, and those can be as a slate.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, reports and updates. Mike?
Before I get started, I'm going to pass around the warrant that needs to be signed. I'll have one going one way, and if every board member could just take a moment and sign it, and hopefully it eventually comes back here. I want to start this evening just sort of share condolences. You received a note from me over the weekend about the Cranberry Island community, and my condolences to that community and the family of Corey Alley, father, husband, and select board member who died on Friday. He was a committed family member and community member. He always strived to ensure the town could support those who choose to live and work in such a beautiful place, and at times an isolated place on the coast of Maine. I can tell you that he will be deeply missed by the community and those touched by his service. And so I also want to thank the support not only of the folks, our social workers and guidance people in our schools where family was impacted, and it impacted not only the Cranberry Island School, but Mount Desert and the high school here. And I also like to thank a surrounding district, Hancock had as a member that works for that community who grew up on the island, Georgia Howland, and she's now a social worker, and she works at the school in Hancock, and Rob Lebo and the principal, Adam Gray, there allowed her to come with a social worker from that school and with their close connections to be a part of that community today to help support those folks. So, it's in these times that people truly come together, and I appreciate the close-knit family that we have here on the coast of Maine, regardless of whether you're on this island or on the mainland. I think it's so important how we come together at these times. So I just wanted to share those words with you and those feelings. In thinking about our enrollment, we're up to 1,410 students. That's up 3 from December, and as we know, these sort of go up and down. I did want to share around district staffing. We still have some openings similar to those I've shared in the past. Pematic is looking for a cook, so if you know anybody who is really interested in making school meals, go see Christine, Dr. Gray down in Pematic. I will be sending some of my district office team to University of Maine Farmington does a job fair, and I'll be sending folks to that to be able to attract teachers, and we'll have some things to share with the new collective bargaining agreement. We'll also be updating some of our information that's on serving schools. I don't know if you went there right now and looked for the job search and you typed in NDI RSS, you would see a really lovely video that Will Green, a former graduate from the school, put together about NDI that's there. And then we'll also be adding a pamphlet that was created a number of years ago, updating it and putting that there to provide more information about our community and the education that we provide there to hopefully attract some more people. We'll also be looking at other job fair opportunities to be able to get to, whether that's at the university or elsewhere, just to be able to do more of an attracting people here. Since reorganization is later on in the budget, I will save that for later. I did want to share just some of the goings on, within our schools over the past month. I'll be going to Connors Emerson tomorrow as part of a sort of a middle school visit for myself to get a sense of a day in the life of middle schoolers at our schools. And tomorrow I'll be at Connors Emerson. What some of the things happening there is Dr. Webster actually learned how to code, apparently. And so from the unplugged class there. And fifth graders have an affirmation chain where they write words of encouragement on each lake for their classmates as a sort of a reminder. On Cranberry Island, around the break, I think I talked last time about the part that they did a community event where they built gingerbread houses, but they also told a story and read a story about the escape of the gingerbread person, and they actually created a little video of that that can be seen on the website if you were to go there. For Frenchboro, they are a kind and thoughtful bunch of boys, and my birthday is right around the holiday, and they sent me a little backpack that had a picture of the island on it and trails on it, and then they did a bunch of lovely artwork of the boats and just life on the island, and so that's in a prominent place in my office right now. In Mount Desert, they were selected to take the National Assessment of Educational Progress in 8th grade, and you've probably heard in the past that schools are randomly chosen to do that assessment. And I had an opportunity at a board meeting, we had the art teacher, Shannon Westfall, present to us, and one of the things she presented was some beautiful artwork that the kids did that coincided with the book Zen Shorts. You may have read that to your own children years ago, and it's a series of tales that explore friendship, love, generosity, and anger. And they have little pieces of art that sort of went along with that. Matt talked a little bit about the goings-on here at the high school. The semester is closing. I saw some stuff where Mrs. Murphy and her class, the students were working on body systems and refining their skills on taking blood pressure. And you also heard about during flex time, they're going to have Tom, if I'm remembering his name correctly, to do that flex time options for students on working on lowering stress and building resilience. Over in Pematic, third graders are learning coding and the makerspace with Mr. B. The eight students, slow down, Mike, received their Howard Awards at their town hall meeting, all around responsibility. And a neat thing that they do at Pematic for 4th through 8th graders, Mrs. Schroeder, who is the fourth grade teacher, is there in the morning at 7:30 and provides opportunities for kids to come, and they have to sign up in the morning on the door, and they come in and have that time, quiet time to do work. Over on Swans, they're starting their basketball season, and they come off, and some folks go there, and usually it's Connors Emerson, Pematic, and the Airline School, play the kids out at Swans. And they're hopefully getting a live theater to come out there and do some theater with the students there. In Tremont, I wanted to read what their overall goal is, that when you look at their newsletter, and I think it's sort of impactful for everyone, but it's one that they share, and it's that all members of the TCS community strive to build positive relationships with others and create a school culture that communicates care, warmth, and personal regard for all. What a great sentiment to know about your school there. And then also some of the things going on is that they had Officer Cameron Jennings, who is part of the Hancock County Police Department, to sort of come to the sheriff's office, and he visited 7th, 6th, and 5th grade and 4th grade in French classes to share his love of French, and he got a little exploration of the languages, and the kids worked with him on that. And then in Trenton, finally, the PTC supported a new rate room for them, and so that's really exciting. Grade 3 students were put on their yearly performance on fables in a reader's theater that they do. That's really exciting. And then once again, staff and students will have the opportunity to work with the Maine Outdoor School that's working in a bunch of our schools, and they have all of students K through 8 work with that school to do some outdoor scientific activities. So there's a lot that sort of goes on, that's rich experiences that happens at all of our schools, and I think it's important for all of you to sort of hear that as part of our pre-K-12 education. These are the things that we provide for our students. I think it's important to remember. I'm going to skip over HCTC because Bill did an awesome job covering all of that for you all. And you are all in the middle of budget season, so I'll just skip over that because I know it's a really busy night. But one of the things I did want to focus on is there are a couple big pieces of legislation and updates that are coming along, and I wanted you to be aware of the things that are happening in my office. Number one is, if you recall, in July, the Maine Paid Family Leave Act was passed, and right now the state is in sort of the rulemaking process of what that means for employers, whether that's private employers and public employers. And so we are in the process of gathering information to share with the legislatures of what that impact might be on us financially. I do want to share is that 13 states do have a similar law as this, and basically it's for providing 12 weeks of paid time off available for families for medical reasons. And right now we're looking at a contribution that we might have to give the state about 1% of what our total payroll is. And so Nancy's working on that to pass that information on so the legislature is aware of its impact. Also, there's some rulemaking occurring around CDS, which is the Child Development Services Part B, and that's where it talks about the care of 4-year-olds in our pre-K and a potential shift of that happening where schools will become the sort of the overseers of the education of 4-year-olds, not necessarily having to create programs, but to be the overseers of programs. So students may still be in private programs. Right now, CDS functions as the overseers of those education, creating the IEPs and working with schools with that. But a lot of states have 3- and 4-year-olds involved within their schools, and we in schools case manage those, which makes sense. But the question is, there's issues of funding and staffing, and when you consider about having 4-year-olds come to your school, as the state is encouraging that, just sort of space issues. And there were meetings with Pender Macon that sort of talked about that intersection, and for school officials to provide information for her as she goes in front of the legislature to talk about the impact. And then finally, LD 974, which is a minimum wage act for ed techs and support staff in schools. Back when this first came up in the last legislature, the bill sort of focused on $25 an hour as sort of the minimum. And I just wanted to share with you all that currently we pay between $19 and $25 an hour on the front end and high end of our scales. Next year, we pay $20 to $27 an hour. I think that $25 an hour was an initial share, but again, the state is gathering information from all schools about what their levels are, and then I think the legislature will then make a decision on what they're going to propose forward. But that's a bunch of work that's happening in my office in terms of that intersection of our work in the legislature. We're going to talk about calendar later, so I will save that part for later. And I'll let our tech team and our directors of teaching and learning take over from there. Unless there's any
Tired
questions.
of talking about Schoology or what? I can't entirely skip over it, although I was tempted given your cues of skipping over some things. But I will simplify given Jill's very comprehensive presentation earlier. But before I begin, I would like to bring our tech team up front and center. I told you I was going to bring you up, Luke. And I've got chairs. We've had some who've had recent surgeries, so make sure they're comfortable. And I think it's really important that you see that we are a team. And the work that we've been doing, we couldn't have done without restructuring our jobs at the district level. So you may recall, and I have it linked in that very verbose January note, we definitely over-communicated with a gazillion links. And really that was because we were talking to a lot of different audiences in that note, and we wanted to make sure we're covering all of our bases and making sure we're addressing all the points. And one of those points was we put a new team together to address our changing technological educational landscape. Lily's not here tonight, but she had said, can't we simplify technology? And I would love to say yes, because I mean, that's how we all grew up, right? But the truth is that the post-pandemic world is expecting us to go online if needed at any time. And it's, are we gonna have another pandemic? Probably not, but might we have a new school built with a delay in opening, like our neighboring school did at Sumner, and they did 6 months of online teaching and learning and they had to be ready? Yes, and those are the things we are expected to be prepared for and accountable to our community. And having a comprehensive learning management system is part of that infrastructure. Another part of the MTSS infrastructure, which it supports, is a learning management system. So a lot of people aren't really quite sure what a learning management system is, and it gets confused with PowerSchool. So just real quick, PowerSchool is a student information system, attendance, lunch count, state reporting, all the facts. It used to have stuff like grade books built in there, and it does, and it creates your report card. And that's where we used to live when we had kind of simplified expectations of technology. Over the past 10 years, our expectations have grown. We've tried different applications and tried to marry them with PowerSchool. And a key reason why we picked Schoology was because PowerSchool picked Schoology, and we weren't getting rid of PowerSchool. To do so would have been a huge lift. So we went with the product that the company was going to most likely best integrate with. Because for the first time, we really listened to these folks and said, what is hard about software implementation? Well, purchasing products that say, oh, we'll integrate with everything. We've done that so many times, it's really not quite smooth. So it was we were putting our eggs in the basket where the company was putting their eggs, acknowledging it wasn't going to meet everybody's needs and be super perfect. I guess you're probably interested in knowing who the team is, right? So this is our new team, part of our new technology restructuring. Why don't we take a moment to introduce ourselves, say who we are, what we do for a job primarily, and your favorite movie. Mine is Jaws.
Well, I think most people know me, Wendell Oakwall. I work kind of 2 days a week for the district and 3 days a week for Mount Desert Elementary School. I've been with the district in Mount Desert Elementary School for 29 years, I think, something like that, long time. Lou?
I'm Lou Jones Rodriguez. I'm the IT lead for the district. I bounce to every school. You'll meet Cindy in a second if you haven't already. She's the right hand, I'm the left. Anything that doesn't have to do with curriculum and technology, you can call me or all of us. My favorite movie, I feel K through 12, Labyrinth.
I'm Elaine Eaton, and I'm the database administrator. And basically, I do federal and state reporting, and I manage PowerSchool and the integration of all the software that we have with PowerSchool. That means users, basically creating users and access and security and all those kind of areas. And I do whatever anybody tells me to do. I don't know my favorite movie. Right now it's that Battle Watch. I'm really liking that. Go ahead.
I'm Cindy Lambert, and I am the Education Technology Lead. And I was a middle school science and math teacher for many, many, many years at Trenton. And then I went to MDES as a tech integrator, and so now I'm here. And so my job is to support teachers and the tech integrators and students with learning how to use their technology. So I create videos, I create documents, how to answer lots of questions, provide lots of support. Some people more hand-holding than others, but I get to go to all the schools and see a lot of the teachers that I've worked with for many years, and to meet the new teachers as well.
So in a second, you're going to have a chance to ask questions, and I'm going to be leaning on these folks to help answer them. But another highlight I would like to, I guess what I would like to do is Jill did a very micro, discussion about Schoology, how it affects teachers, how it affects students. And the things I'm talking about, we're talking about, are more macro, right? So our challenges with Schoology aren't necessarily for the software. It's really about our system that we've set up and have been practicing for 10 years. And we've had to untangle quite a bit that we didn't really know we needed to untangle ahead of time. And it wasn't until we went live that we had discovered this. If we had a test server, and I've talked to them about budgeting for one, and again, this is our pitch to invest a little bit more in technology. We've been very judicious and not tried to ask for a lot with technology, but having a $5,000 test server might have saved us a little bit of aggravation. But lesson learned, and you may have noticed that our budget has in fact increased in technology, and we did talk about that at the last board meeting on the technology restructuring. And Mike, maybe you could kind of be queuing up in the background the different documents. We did show a breakdown again of where all those monies are going with some charts for your easy, quick reference. But a huge component of it is data and cybersecurity. So that is another component of our changing educational landscape is the responsibility now for protecting information in our student information systems and in our business offices where it comes to our students' social security, our teachers' social security numbers and payroll, etc. So at this point, we have a team able to do the facilitation of what we need for software and supporting with devices and so forth. But the network and the security component is getting so exponentially great and changing so much with the speed of technology. We've had to contract with an external provider to make sure we are protected. So that is also discussed in the technology infrastructure link again. And this is really where I invited these folks here to talk a little bit about why we need to be contracting with Blue Spruce Technologies and how they can help us do our job and do right by our teachers and students.
I think we've come a long way with our network from when I started. That each individual school had a connection. We've come to a centralized, municipal area network, and it's protected behind firewalls, and we have a lot of stuff, but it's basically homegrown from what we've made as, I think, good educated decisions, and it's been pretty successful, but it's at the point where we really need people that do this full-time and a team, because it's been basically me and Josh since we started. And we are not certified network security analysts or engineers of any degree. I think we have the best interest of the school in mind and have done a pretty good job, but we really need an organization behind us that can monitor the network and make suggestions and protect us. Because all it takes is one or two emails that will slip through, and you can have a major problem.
To add on to that too, is we've been working with them regularly in the past few weeks, especially because we have a deadline coming up for renewing some devices.
Yeah.
And we've had 6 engineers working with us. So for this small price, we're getting 6 engineers that are fully qualified
And they do this full-time and they're trained
and they have a lot of experience with a lot of other schools, so they see examples in other places.
And their
So
company's based right over the border in New Hampshire, so
Yeah.
we did that a few companies. And
Yeah.
so it's really good that we're having
Yeah.
that kind of experience come in for that small price.
Right. They seem very proactive and
Mhm.
willing to help, which is good.
And there's another attachment in there that's an email to our teachers telling them about what they can do to protect themselves and so forth. It does, right. So we're working with our teachers too, to, partner with them and making sure
Right.
we're protecting ourselves. And I don't want to disparage our local districts, but they're having problems, right? So, we're learning from our neighbors to say, we don't want that to be us. And so there's some links to some schools in there in Maine who have been having some breaches.
Lou's been instrumental in setting up a program with an agency we contract with before. So we do simulated phishing campaigns.
We come way under the national average
Really, really good on that.
in the K through 12 faculty that click on phishing attempts. I think we're 9% of our faculty have clicked on something from the fake, the phishing emails that I've sent out before.
Right.
And the national average is 29?
Usually when Lou sends out a campaign, I get like 40 emails. Is this real? So it's good. They're thinking about it, which is important.
Do we have that, that button in our email where they can click
Phishing alarm?
report?
That goes straight to us. We can see.
So they can do that?
Yeah. And if they don't, click on it. Do we have the kind of education component installed yet, or people will be?
Not yet.
redirected to-
I was going to push out once everyone gives approval. So if someone clicks on something, a phishing attempt,
Yeah.
it'll auto alert them and give them a 30-second video of that type of attack that I sent out, and it'll train them. And if they keep clicking on that sort of attack, if they keep making that same mistake, the video will give more in depth and in detail.
Yeah.
And hopefully it won't go that far.
It's probably the most important thing we can do is educate people about email, because that is the #1 attack source. That's where we get hit the most. We have multiple levels of protection for email. We use a Google G Suite that has a bunch of lists that we've developed to prevent stuff, and we also have a Barracuda email security program that scans everything. And we probably weed out about 15 to 20,000 emails a day that come into our district that are nefarious in nature, unfortunately. So that's why everybody now is complaining, how come I'm not getting any spam in my, well, you don't want the spam. It's a multi-tiered approach.
I'll put Cindy on the hot seat a little bit. She's really our educational software. A little earlier, Marie, you asked about K-8, so, how are we listening to K-8 teachers? And there's a little bit of a delay because we were very focused on the high school and getting that squared away. And then now we're in the trenches with the K-8, getting ready for the report card deadline and so forth. And that's when, those challenges have presented themselves. And we will be spending some time, once we get through this. We've got a crunch time of 3 weeks left, right? And we will be debriefing and we'll be talking about next steps. Jill alluded to something called equity-based grading. That's just the new language people are using for standards-based grading, and I'll talk more about that later. But it does create a little more discretion on the part of teachers and so forth, as long as sort of following some basic guidelines. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but Cindy, you want to give your impressions from the field?
Impression from the field. Well, it's certainly a wide range of responses to learning how to use Schoology to report out their grades. Some teachers, K to 8, they're like, oh, that's it? No problem. And others are like, you want me to click that many times? Fill that out? I'm like, yeah. So it's just like you would expect with any new technology, there's the wide range of thinking what they can do. But once we work our way through those fears, they're like, okay, I can do this. And I always tell them, I'm just an email away. Just email me your questions and I'll be happy to answer them. And some of them were like, oh, well, I'm bothering you. And I'm like, no, you're not. That's my job. So the middle school, many middle school teachers have used Schoology throughout the term, and so they're feeling comfortable. There's still questions. We certainly have just scratched the surface of what Schoology can do for us and for our students, and so we've made some progress in the first term, but we certainly have more things that we can do with this. And so I'm looking forward to working with teachers to see where we go and how we use this LMS to really build a resource for students to work on what they want to work on in their education. And so giving them some more choice in that. So. Yes.
It seems like with the K-8 implementation, there will be a lot less student, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't know how much student submission and stuff is happening at that age group, so that's maybe one variable that won't be such a big part of stuff. Or maybe in middle school it is. I don't think assignments will be submitted on Schoology for like second graders probably, so.
No.
That's something that will,
so
a variable to
I'm
look
working with a group of first grade teacher, a second grade teacher, and a fourth grade teacher. And we're looking at using Schoology as a way to track their progress, the students' progress. And so having students maybe take a picture of work that they've done or read a story that they've written. And then the teacher would have a record of it, and then it would also be able to share it with the parents. And so so using it more in that way, so it's not an everyday thing. It might be once a week that the students are doing a particular activity where the teacher's collecting some data. So
And just to contextualize it, Cindy put it out to all K-4 teachers who wanted to be a part of a group to explore it and give some recommendations on how it would be best used at their grade level. She had 3 people step forward, and they're working through that now.
Yeah.
So, so then the 5th through 8th, you said some are using it. Are those who aren't still using Google Classroom? Because they do submit stuff online. So
everybody's using Schoology for grading, and some of the fifth grade, 5 through 8, well, K through 8, everybody's using it, except for there's a few schools that are using Gold. But every teacher that is not using Gold will be using Schoology for their grading, and then that information goes into PowerSchool to create the report card. So there are teachers that are still reluctant to use Schoology for assignments to hand to students, and so what they're doing is they're recording the grades in Schoology but not as part of something that they've handed to students, kind of thing. So it might be a paper, or they might have the kids do a Google Doc and hand it in to them and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, and
there's definitely trainings that need to happen, and sharing, teachers that have been using it, having them share how they've used it, and so to kind of inspire others to say.
In a response to your Google Classroom question, I mean, Ron and I have been very clear with our teachers that the Google Classroom police are not coming to get you, right? This is a transition. And Google Classroom does some things better, but it does only a couple of things. Like it's designed to do a few things, so it does those few things well. It's not a part of a learning management system. It's like a one-off, it's an app. So, we're not making any hard calls on that until we can figure out how we're learning about using this tool best and leveraging it. We're learning about different things that are going to make the process better for teachers. But we're thinking right now, we're not supporting time, money, and infrastructure and training development for a product that if you leave, and this happened to me, I was a teacher during the pandemic, the teacher left, I didn't have their Google Classrooms. So they own them, we don't, right? There's no smooth transition. So you have to ask for it. Most people are really helpful and they'll give it to you, right? But if that happened now I could say, well, we'll get Elaine to just slide it over to you, no problem. And because we'll own it. And that's a huge shift in sort of thinking but that's the systems part to it. And we do have turnover, and we do have teachers leave in the middle of the year. And we are obligated to make sure those transitions are smooth, and that's part of why we're supporting this pretty strongly.
So is there a timeline that, I understand you're not wanting to have them shut down?
Yeah, we're behind that timeline.
Forget I asked the question.
No. Again, we're not sure because we don't know yet.
Okay.
I mean, so, yeah. Did you have a question, Jessica?
Yeah. No, you answered it.
Okay. Yeah. They're here.
The other question? Okay. Do you have more? You guys have more? No. Okay.
I think we've done enough. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
It's super helpful.
So, all right, we're moving on to, do you have more?
Oh.
What? You're done, okay. Reorganization Planning Committee, update.
So I want to share that we have one more town to work with, and I'm meeting with the Trenton Town Select Board on the 23rd, and to work with them to select a member for the RPC, and then after that we'll have our full team. The board team is meeting on the 11th of this month, so just in a couple days, on Thursday, to begin sort of framing what that work will look like as we move forward. So probably after that meeting, we'll start thinking about what those dates might look like and what the amount of time we plan to sort of put in place to provide that work. So now that negotiations are over, I think for both the board and for myself to put a lot of our energy into moving forward on reorganization and beginning that process.
Any questions? Okay, that brings us to one of our most exciting parts of every year, which is the school calendar
I promise I
discussion.
don't have any surprises. Not this year, no surprises.
It's true.
Hands down, in the time that I have been on the board and the board chair, this has been one of our most, I did not know when I became a school board member.
There's so many feelings.
So as the draft is going around, I want to sort of just remind you of some of the parameters that we work with when we build a calendar. One of those parameters is that we have to coordinate our calendar with HCTC to ensure that the education for those students, that there's continuity and they're not missing a lot of days. And so the state basically says, you have 5 days that you could be sort of out of sync. And so part of the process of building the calendar is meeting with Hancock County superintendents, and we sort of talk about all of those pieces that go into that initial frame. And I would like to share that there was, discussion around, do you start before Labor Day or after Labor Day? And there was some schools who had heard feedback and some schools that hadn't. And as you notice from this is a before Labor Day. And so every other school within Hancock County is doing a before Labor Day start to the calendar. So there's really no way we can switch, otherwise we would be totally out of sync with HCTC. Currently, with this calendar, we're out of sync 6 days. However, one of the ways that we sort of make up is with those calendar days in January, the teacher day and the PD day, where the high school provides busing for those students. So then we would be within those days if we continue that. And we've done that this year with our days. So I wanted to sort of share that. And so basically this calendar is just sort of a switch over from this year to from last year to this year. One of the particular changes at the beginning on that start of school, which would be the week of the 19th in August, you'll notice that there's a no school day on that Friday, where we moved our new teacher work and then our PD for new teachers. Those 2 days are Monday, Tuesday. In the past, we've had it like Tuesday, Wednesday. There's some reasoning, and some of the other schools in the district utilize that Friday. Part of that idea is to sort of help provide more time for teachers, if they choose, to be able to get into their classrooms and do some work, that they have that day as an option for them. Also, we've heard a lot as students are going off to college and had to field sometimes of parents having to take a day off to get their kids to college. And hopefully this might help some, but colleges have different start dates. There's no way you can coordinate that in a single calendar, but it provides an option, and hopefully for some of our staff and those students that would work there. The numbers of early releases remains the same. There are 5 district-based. There are 4 school-based, and then there are 2 for parent-teacher conferences for the elementaries, and there are 2 early releases for the high school. One of the changes with the early releases, part of the new CBA talks about parent-teacher conferences where leadership teams or faculty works with the administration to create a schedule for that school that involves both in-person or virtual options, and they'll work as a team to create that over the conference week. The elementary day on that Friday before is an opportunity for teachers to really plan their parent-teacher conferences so that they are really thoughtful quarter marks. And for the elementary schools, that time is really the quarter mark within the semester to help parents get an understanding of their child's progress up to that date moving forward. Other than that, that district day in March is a common day throughout the district. So all schools, throughout the Hancock County, so all schools in the county have that March day, and that allows for some work across schools, whether that's with presenters or programs to happen. But other than that, we worked really hard to try to make sure that we had sort of those full weeks, and that any of those days were placed strategically, particularly for the district-based days and school-based days in terms of the planning that they do with their schools for meeting their goals. And right now, that this version that you're looking at, it has the little monikers for district-based and elementary-based. When this is made for parents, that will disappear and just be the colors, so they don't get confused about, well, is there a difference between a district early releasing? It'll be just like the one that's on the website right now. That's a little bit simpler. This was for our purposes when we were working with the drafts to sort of tease out what we would like. So I still have to, part of the process is I still have to meet and consult with the Teachers Association, which I'm doing that this week, just to share the calendar with them. But they've provided some of the feedback that's sort of in the mix with this, but it's pretty much a sort of a switch over from last year with some revisions to this year.
Tyson?
I just have an easy question, I think. But are all early release days the same time for all
Yes.
schools?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to include that time on this calendar? Because I frequently get asked that. Like, what time early release is. Yeah.
I think you might have touched on this, definitely you touched on the parent-teacher conference early release. Is this the other early release days? Is this just like a contractual, like the teachers have certain amount with the district versus the school? I guess I'm just curious why there's so many, especially in the fall. Like I felt like every other week we were getting hit with an early release.
I think part of the early releases is not a contractual thing. It is an opportunity in recognizing the work, particularly around MTSS, where we're trying to make sure we're moving all kids forward. Honestly, that wasn't necessarily always the case when we were going to school, and there's a concerted effort to make sure students are making progress, and that takes a lot of work. And as we shared last year, when I proposed the weekly early release, that is really the amount of time that's needed to support really strong MTSS work to sort of potentially bring down the number of referrals in special education, to really ensure that our kids are meeting the targets that we're asking them to meet. That's not happening here, so we had to come up with a structure that did its best to support our focus on teacher leadership, which started those district days. And so some of those early ones right off the bat are really to build momentum for the work with the start of school district-wide, and then also to provide the individual elementary schools, particularly in September. They just have that one day before school starts, but really to have a follow-up during that September time to really focus on what their goals are and how they're implementing that within schools. And so that's why right at the beginning, and then when you get into October, we're taking a look at the NWA results. That some of the schools, you see those results in your individual schools, but having that time in October provides opportunities for teachers in their individual schools and in their district meetings to really take a look at that data. Excuse me.
That's helpful.
And early releases in 12:30, right?
12:30, yes.
Yes.
Yep. But that was a really good point to have that. Make sure that that's listed.
Any other questions? Lori?
I noticed that the January break for those 2 days, they're moved into 1 week instead of the Friday and the Monday. Can you talk about why?
That is there because of the focus on the number of days between the semesters. And I think in an earlier version that went out to the board, it was up above. And then when we did the count, and then recognizing that we have wind days and storm days and all of those, particularly in that second semester, we moved it there to make that breakdown a little bit easier. So if we needed days, that they were available.
One for little green rectangle.
The green rectangle, the one in October, that is the parent-teacher conference. And the one at the end of October, that's the parent-teacher conference time for the high school.
Okay, and then March.
And then the March one, it's that same. We are all about color.
This is a small little observation. It seems like there's an effort to make it so there aren't consecutive weeks with half days, and there is one last week of September and first week of October. I'm sure there's a reason for that. Was that just like a semester? Right, am I seeing that right? So
Yes.
27th of.
Well, yes, the one in October was to meet the need of having the parent-teacher conference prep on the Friday, so that then teachers were ready. When they build that schedule, they'll go Monday through Friday, and those evenings, and they'll be ready. And that's the same thing with the one later in the spring.
Makes sense.
I'm just gonna say this, it's something I always say, and I know that since we've made the commitment to doing the 11 half days, that it's nearly impossible to put a Band-Aid on what I'm about to lament, but there's barely any full weeks of school anymore. And that's been the consistent, like, downhill trend since I've been on the board. And it's just hard, it's hard to think that there's never really, like every other week is not a full week of school, essentially, if not with a vacation and 2 half days and then PD day, I'm gonna constantly like sort of lament that. And it's not coming from an old school thing, it's coming from the consistency that we know, like our kids need. I mean, if we were to sprinkle in when we're probably gonna have like weather days, that's gonna probably knock out at least 2 to 3 days between October and December. So though any week that is potentially, well, there's like 2 weeks in December that could potentially be full. Well, that's not gonna happen. December, there's only 1 week that could potentially be full, but that's not gonna happen. I mean, you know what I mean? I think that's like one of the, when you look at the calendar and it's just hard to look at it and with the acknowledgement that if you are an elementary school student, you're going to have very few weeks where there is 5 days of scheduled learning happening.
Yeah. And I guess I'll push back on that a little bit, just from the perspective of the MTSS work that I think is really important, and that time that's necessary. And other school districts, I consider those days still full weeks, even though they go home at 12:30. They're still having content learning on those calendar days, on those Fridays when they're meeting, and would argue that if all of those days were early release days, it would probably look like full weeks, even though we know they're early release days. But the focus would be on how we're moving kids in their content and in their learning, and that would be what would be going on those days with teachers. I think there's a visual effect, that you see some of those early releases scattered about, but I still think that there's continuity of learning, and that those half days that teachers are utilizing are very impactful in the classroom, particularly as we move forward with MTSS. I think they would be more impactful. I'm being honest. I wish that those Fridays, I would have picked another day because I know Friday's not a good day. But I think that would be more impactful if there was more consistency around that time for teachers. But I think our teachers and our principals are utilizing the time that they do have to be really important and useful for what they're doing with kids when they're standing in front of them. But I get it. I get it.
Sorry, I realize this is like a touchy subject. I feel the same way. I feel like it's very choppy, and I'm a parent of 2 kids in the K-8 program. And I will say this is also probably very unpopular. I'm just grateful that this year in particular, I'm able to go and pick up my kids and be there with them on those half days, because I wouldn't want them sitting in our after-school program, like not our after-school, but the one that's available to me. That's not the case for everyone, and that's probably not even going to be the case for me forever. It kind of got me thinking, I wonder if there's anything, like we've implemented this before school thing at Pematic, where there's an early drop-off, where it's a no tech, and it's a bit more academic, like even if they're pulling out a puzzle to build, it's something to like utilize their brains. It almost makes you think, as we move forward, it seems like this is going to be the compromise, at the very least, that we're making, where they're getting this planning time to focus on these strategies so they can better support our kids. But
as we continue with that, maybe there's something that can be put in place where there's some support also to the kids and to the parents, where that's a little bit more educational, or just something that's a bit more, controlled. I don't know what the word is.
No, I think you bring up a good point, Marie. And I think it's something, we are looking at it, and it came up in our discussions with the administrative team and the calendar to continue to look at that after-school programming, even if we're not doing once a week, but trying to figure out how to make those opportunities. Because right now, really, the only real after-school program that's provided by a school is over at Trenton. And are there a way that we can take a look at our community partners? And we've had some conversations with our community partners, that would be Camp Beechcliff, the YMCA, and others, to sort of think about how we can utilize them. And I think they're excited. And so those are discussions. Those are, if you go into where we meet as a central office team with Julie and Rhonda, we have a wall that has quite a lot on it in terms of our ideas. We're already planning the beginning of next year. But all of those pieces as a way to sort of keep track, but that's a big piece of thinking about providing that opportunity, because we knew it was such a big piece of our discussion when we were looking at a weekly early release.
Okay, great.
So.
On half day, do they have all their same classes just shortened, or is it literally just you get whatever happens before 12:30?
I think each school does it a little bit differently. When I was a principal, we would sort of do a rotation because there's some specials classes you might miss, and some teachers would either do a shortened class or there'd be a rotation in the middle school, because you have a little less control there. But I don't know if one of the principals want to share.
I think about our 5/8 schedule. We have the same academic minutes, but we offer one special to the kids so that our teachers do have that one personal planning time. And then if we usually have like an MTSS period, an advisory period, or a longer homeroom period, that we would shorten it on those days. And so we have the exact same schedule every early release day. Looking down at the K4 schedule, they also have one special. A lot of times it is some shortened, not so much shortened academic periods, but more concentrated is what we'd like to do. And we try to keep a consistent schedule. So when we do have an early release day, everybody already knows what the schedule is, and it's just kind of like clockwork with us. And so I do think about how we use the early release days, and I could probably, I hyper-focus my planning when we do the early release days, because that time is so precious to us. I could probably have 10 more and fill them all. And so I do appreciate the hardship it is on parents, but I do think that the work that's being done and the amount of collaboration that is needed really does pay off in the end. So I do appreciate, the planning and giving us that time in the schedule. So thank you very much on that part.
Yeah, I think just as Marie stated, it's just kind of how you use the time. I don't know if they'd be able to kind of learn throughout the week, and if they had a big test, take it on Friday, you got half a day, put in your best effort, and go home. Or if the extracurriculars, I don't know if it'd be a possibility to do it right after 12:30 to help alleviate parents as well, and then partnering with outside organizations, some of those low-hanging fruit to help these situations. Because, there are some days like February 15, really, there's like 13 and 2/2, maybe some will call 14, but, the time is vital too, so finding a way that parents, teachers, and students could come together and not feel like it's a loss of days and feel like they're getting their time.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that you guys are talking to community partners, because I feel like when we talked about this last year, I want to just bang the drum more about this being a community responsibility and not just a school system one. Not that I don't think the system is shirking the responsibility of kid coverage, but I think this is a great opportunity for the community to step in and provide opportunities to kids, because Booth Bay Harbor's system does this amazing thing where kids are just, it's like you actually have to opt out of coverage for your children to about 5 p.m. It's just a built-in understanding that kids being covered is what the community does there. I know that there's like, you know, it's unfair to compare system to system, but it's like, it's not a school thing, it's like the why. So just, we can do it, we can do it. I just, I'm gonna keep bringing it up every year.
I want to second you because whether it's a 2/3 day that ends at, 12:30 or 1, or a day that ends at 2:45 or 3, most people's jobs go past both of those times. So that really points to a larger issue of that need. Karen?
So, Mike, you mentioned that that Trenton is doing something to support the kids with these half days. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Well, it's just they've been doing a after-school program for years now. I think it started in 2013. Heather was probably around at Trenton when it started through a grant that was funded, and part of that grant then the school itself had to pick up the cost, and they continued that. So after the grant went through, the town continued to support that after-school programming, and it has gone through various levels of how it's run and what's done there through the different leaders that have done it. But it's been school-based, and it's been supported through the town, the school's budget to support the folks that run it and then make it available to the students. So that's available every day.
But it's not on the half days.
We don't do it on
Yeah, not on the half.
We do it Tuesday, Wednesday,
That's right.
Thursday.
Oh,
So we don't support the early release time because our staff run the program. So we really feel like all of our staff are necessary on these early release days because we do training on like PBIS, and that's going to benefit our students if every member of our staff is present. So we don't have a system to support the early release yet. But that's a really
But a
good point that
Tuesday
we
through
have to get to.
Thursday, that's something,
Yeah,
that's pretty
Tuesday,
serious.
Wednesday, Thursday till 4:30.
well, I echo what's been said about, supporting, having our community partners take on some of this. I just feel like I would love to, for the 2025-26 calendar, to be handed something where we have that early release every week, and there's a program in place that's giving our kids art, music, physical activity, something like that with community partners, because I think that would be amazing. And it would serve both our families and our teachers.
Sounds like I have a job for next year.
Add that to your list.
Can we learn a bit
Fill in
more,
activities
just about this? Because I feel like the Booth Bay one sounds very interesting. The Trenton one is in play within our district. Like, maybe we can look at how that's operating. There, we have an exact example. The Booth Bay thing sounds like very intriguing. Just like, what are best practices? How do we get,
In that case, it's a YMCA program.
Okay.
That is like just.
But like, that's something we can take to the Y and be like,
I know.
how are you guys
Yeah,
showing up?
totally.
Like, you're
I'm
always
in.
sending
I'm
an
in.
email about, give me money, like.
They do, I think they do some stuff with the harder, but.
Right.
There's a nonprofit group that meets, I think it's monthly. I've been asked to join it at different times with different boards I've been on, but have never had time. But maybe that's a place to start, is to send a representative to the nonprofits meeting, because, we've got Art Waves, and we've got, different people who are doing music programs and all kinds of things out there. I think we need to just get the word out more that this is something we're looking for. And I know you're probably doing some of that, Mike, but let's find other people who are willing to help, because we can't just keep piling everything on you.
I mean, I would say like, you could, people could request that there's a subcommittee based of school board members like us who are onto the, and that could come up with, to do some work, do some outreach and do some work and come up with some preliminary findings or suggestions. Because it is a lot. It's very important, but it's also like, there's a lot of things that we've already put on the superintendent's plate. Having been the person who brought it up, I'm just like, I said I knew we couldn't fix it because it was very important to get this time, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes we used to use those like all the time for like everything, like, oh, we need new toilet paper, let's have a subcommittee on it, like, so like, I'm just saying, at your
Yes.
behest, we could,
List of her to do a subcommittee. I think the other piece of this, which came up last year, and like, I am wholeheartedly in support of a robust and educational after-school program is the money. Because it's either gonna be funded through people are gonna have to tuition it, which is a, burden for parents, or else if we pay for it, then our budgets go.
Yeah.
I mean, I support that, but I just think that's a.
It's not free.
Yeah, right.
And that's part of what we forget, but yes.
Just to say, like as a parent who has a child at Connors Emerson too, I wanted to shout out to the Y. I know you don't know about the program, but like my daughter goes every Friday early release, every storm day, every no school day. I would be lost without the Y, and I pay for that out of pocket, but it's well worth the money to have that childcare. It's a lot cheaper than I'm sure for the families that are paying an hourly babysitter. They do a wonderful job for our youngest children, but also they are a huge community place. Where my son, who's 13, walks down on his early release days with all of his friends, and they have the basketball court, the baseball field, the soccer. Like, it's amazing, and they are figuring it out. And I think they have more staffing on those days because the front desk seems like there's more people. So I just want to shout out that I think the Y is doing a good job in Bar Harbor. I wish we could, whether it's bringing our vans over from my school, I think there's ways that we can do it, and it should be a priority because they are making it happen for Connors Emerson kids.
And I'll just put a plug, if your child is on the swim team, honestly, they will always have a place to go. And the bus, one of the problems is always transportation. So like the Bar Harbor kids can walk, or there's a bus that the Y comes to Connors Emerson, I don't know if they still do, they used to, and pick the kids up. I think the bus broke.
Not anymore.
Okay, but anyway, there's so many ways that the Bar Harbor kids can get there, but it is the deal. They have the capacity, and they've done a really good job with these like half-day programs. You just sign up for them, and you're just locked in, and you never have to think about it. And they used to close them. They never close, ever anymore. So they're doing a really good job. It's just getting kids there. Maybe that's a middle ground where we can figure out how to get the kids there. Anyway, whatever.
Good.
So make your subcommittee.
There was.
I'll say you should join the 17th. No, I'm kidding.
I just want to say I'm happy to dial for dollars. So as you develop this idea more, I mean, obviously it's being backed by you, but if it's a matter of doing some outreach, like I'm happy to do it. More than happy to do it.
I think if it's a way of creating opportunities for students and for teachers to have that time, then I'm all in.
Okay, well, we'll work on it, Marie. Any other questions? Okay, so, what's that?
Just a quick question, just looking at the schedule, would it make sense to move I don't know if it's possible, but in February on the 7th, if you move that to the Friday, the 14th, that would be a short day before the holiday week. I don't know if that matters for people, but if they're traveling or something. Just a thought. I don't care either way.
We had thought about it, and to make that time impactful, if we put it next to the holiday.
Oh, yeah, the teachers.
Then,
that makes sense.
Then you kind of ruin the purpose.
Negates the point.
Yeah.
Yep, makes sense.
We were thinking.
Okay. So I think our action item was the warrant for the annual public budget meeting. I think that went around.
That went around.
Back. So I think we're.
If anybody didn't
Everyone
sign that, they can come around and.
So we have no other action items. Other business. Okay, future agenda items, we'll have after school subcommittee. We'll have, this calendar.
The calendar
will come back for voting, and of course the budget. And then Leslie will work on magic to remind us about things we may have forgotten on the agenda.
There's enough February is calendar, so on our every year to-do list. Calendar is February after that.
Yeah. Any other public comment? Nancy, do you have any public comment?
Come to the annual AOS.
Yes, I'm getting to that, yes. The next meeting is Wednesday, the 24th of January, the annual public budget meeting. I assume it's at 6 or 6:30.
That's what I put on the warrant.
Please come. You put 6? Yeah, 6 o'clock. So, because we do need enough people to vote, so, yeah.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Is it gonna be in here again?
That's a
auditorium?
Yes.
It was here last year.
We did it here last year.
Because 4 people came?
Yeah.
Oh, was it right before? It was
Um,
intimate.
Here.
Yes. And then the regular meeting is the 12th of February, Monday, at, I assume, either 6 or 6:30, depending on the length of the high school meeting, but just pay attention to your agenda. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.